What's up everyone, it's KK and today we're in a training raid because we're going to be talking about fighting under pressure. One thing about Exfil zone, your hands are always sweating. You're always going to be in a situation where your mind might go blank and you don't know what to do. I'm going to give you 5 tips that are going to help you in those tight situations that are going to make you think a lot more clearly when you're in the tense situations, alright? So lock in. So the very first tip here that is very crucial that I've actually been implementing into my own gameplay when I hop on now is practicing reloading quickly in this game, alright? Now when you're reloading in this game, that could be the difference between you surviving and dying in a gunfight. A lot of players will go empty a clip, it comes to the reload, a player may be close by and they start fumbling, the mag is messing up, they're trying to get their mags away and it's not working out for them. Now me, I keep my mags in my secure container, but because I practice reloading so much, I have the rhythm down and I actually understand how to get my weapon ready in time, while reloading. And of course, you can keep it on your vest too, and it's actually, of course, 10 times quicker to reload, from your vest. I choose to do it for my secure container, but it doesn't matter, right? Because when you practice it, you get better at it, it becomes second nature. So when you do get into those fights next time and you hear another player coming up behind you after you killed one player, your mag is empty, you already know, boom boom boom, it's really easy to get your mag swapped out, oops, and then aim at the players coming next to you. So the next time you're just waiting in your hideout, waiting for the raid to start or so, just go ahead and just sit there and just practice reloading over and over again, and make sure you're comfortable and you know exactly what you're doing every single time, so when players pop up, it's not a problem for you to just quickly boom 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 swap and get your mags together. The second thing I want to talk about is using your ears, all right? Say there's some players in this area, you're tensed up, you have some good loot on you because there's people around, right? One thing you want to do is turn your eyes off sometimes and just use your ears. I tell people all the time, half the time when I'm walking around these areas and I'm in a tight situation, I know there's players around, I'm literally not even looking at anything. I'm just using my ears. I'm moving slow and I'm using my ears because I promise you, the player that gets heard first is always going to be the one that loses in the fight, at least like 60-70% of the time, all right? In this game, it's really all about the audio because the audio is so insane. You can hear players from so far away. I'm not sure if they're ever going to change that with the new wipe, but as of now, using your ears is going to be a lot more important than using your eyes, especially when it comes to close quarter combat. Now let's talk about something that's going to relieve some pressure off you before the fight even starts, alright? Now let's talk about weapon checking. As you're moving around the raid, you always want to constantly be aware of how many bullets are in your mag, if your gun is chambered, and you always want to make sure your weapon is on the correct firing mode for what type of fight you're going to engage into, alright? All the time. Every couple of minutes that you haven't been engaged into a fight, just go ahead, check your weapon, check your mags, make sure everything is in order, so when that player does surprisingly pop up, you're not hesitant to go ahead and shoot because your weapon is ready. You don't want to get caught off guard by a weapon that isn't chambered, or weapon single fire when it should be in fully auto, or you have a mag that's like half empty and it's bad for you when the second player pops up, all right? So you always want to make sure you're checking your weapon throughout the raid, because I promise you it's gonna release some stress when you get into that fight. Okay, so now let's talk about your gear and how you place your pouches on your vest, alright? Now, no matter how you place your pouches on your vest, whatever is more comfortable for you works for you. But always make sure once you find that comfortable position for yourself, that you always make it a habit of keeping it in the same places all the time, all right? So if you're used to keeping your grenades down here like I do, make sure you always keep it down there, so when you do get into those fights, you know exactly where to grab every single time to grab the stuff that you need, all right? One thing you'll notice in my gameplay is that I use smoke grenades so much, and these are like the difference between life and death in a lot of situations. So knowing exactly where this is at all times relieves a lot of pressure, especially when a player catches you off guard and you have to pop it very quickly. That's gonna help you out, all right? So make sure these pouches are in places that are familiar to you so you can have them on go. The last thing I want to talk about here is your weapon and knowing what it's capable of, alright? Now, this is an XM5 25 round mag, super high fire rate. With the weapon like this in a hollow scope, I'm going to want to stay up close and make sure I beam those players, right? Because I'm going to want to have every single one of these bullets connect. Long range, I'm probably not going to get that with such a high fire rate weapon, right? So if I'm going to take this weapon into a raid, that's how I'm going to use it. Now, say it has something like the PSG here. I'm using M61, M993. It's going to be very, very good to just one-tap players to the head, all right? So depending on which weapon you're using, you want to know how you can take out players the quickest. So if I'm using this one, I'm going to be focusing on the radar and keeping my distance and aiming for the head, If I'm using something like the XM5, I'm going to focus on, getting up close and spraying them down. I don't want to be using, the XM5 and shooting a player from long range, while he's moving across the way, hoping I get a lucky kill shot, or, coming with the PSG and coming up close to players and, try to just like head tap them. It's not going to work out that way, or it is if you really want it to, but it's not the best way to play, all right? You want to make sure for whatever weapon you're using, you know the quickest way to take out the player while using that weapon, okay? It's going to help you pick your fights a lot more smarter and help you run around the map, maneuver around the map, and just play a lot more smarter in general. But that's going to be it for this video. If you like this video in any way, go ahead, hit up the comment section, tell anyone else any tips that you have for fighting under pressure in the Exfil zone. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you want to see any more content, and I will catch you guys later.